Regression, the subgenre of stories that appeals to losers like me because it poses the question, what if I could do it all again? Redo of Healer, Tokyo Revengers, SSS Class Revival Hunter. The Regressor story presents itself in many fashions, but there's one central idea that ties them all together. Protag-kun returns to his youth to live his life again and prevent a great tragedy. Last time on The Most Toxic Manga Genre, we explored the infamous tales of martial arts, mystics, and misogyny that make up the cultivation genre. The sacred text of DAs and DAs. Today, we switch perspective by looking at the genre where toxicity isn't in what's on the page, but who's behind it. Unlike cultivation, I actually like regression. Well, at least, I can enjoy one in every 15 stories I read, which is a massive step up. And that's because regression isn't actually a genre like I advertised. Not in the traditional sense, anyway. While we can get away with throwing that word around because genres are groupings based on whatever set of conventions a large enough group of people agree on, regression is really just a plot device. Whether we're looking at a medieval world, the Murim, swords and sorcery setting, lit RPG, or modern civilization, all it takes for any of a vast array of stories to be lumped together is the condition that the protagonist is returned to a point in the past wherefrom they can relive their life for the sake of securing a more favorable future. Let's take a look at Dragon Ball. This isn't a Regressor story, but Sparking Zero's all about what ifs, and I want to throw in one of my own. What if the spirit bomb that killed Kid Buu missed? Buu reigns supreme and the ultimate evil rampages through the universe, bringing about the end of everything. In a last-ditch effort to save the universe, the Kais beg Beerus and Whis to gather the Super Dragon Balls and undo this catastrophe. They agree, and a wish is made to give a younger Goku all his memories of the future to prepare for the approaching calamity. Now, before I lose you, here's the point of this thought experiment. How different would the story be if it was told beginning with the return of Goku's memories to the day he met Bulma? Honestly, it'd be exactly the same battle shonen from a genre perspective. The world, powers, and characters are all the same. The only difference would be that Goku would get stronger exponentially faster because he already knew a lifetime's worth of fighting styles, mystic arts, and training routines. The Red Ribbon Army, Demon King Piccolo, Saiyans, Frieza, and Dr. Gero would all still exist and need to be dealt with, but Goku would be so incomparably strong compared to the original timeline that none of them would present meaningful challenges to him. He'd breeze through life all the way through his fight against Buu before encountering mortal danger in the form of the God of Destruction, and you should be able to see where my love-hate relationship with regressors comes in. Presenting le graphe du gabage. The more intense the grind, the faster with filth your eyes will blind. Say goodbye to character development, say hello to power-ups and plot progression that'll have you feeling like you're zooming through a PowerPoint presentation. Because regression isn't a real genre, no blanket statement criticisms I throw out can possibly be accurate for every title you come across, but because regression isn't a genre and is based on every story using the exact same OP plot device, a tremendous percentage of them will cycle along the trajectory of doom. The road that leads them somewhere here. I came all this way to pass on a message. Dark times are coming. Hide away the baby oil, hide away the fam. The diddler, he will soon be coming. So stop him if you can. To all my reincarnators, Second Life gang, I recognize your efforts. You won't ever be alone again. My first life, it ended in a major failure. Such shortcomings, I thought it'd never be right again. Overcome with grief that I thought would haunt me forever. Then there came the light at the very end. My big brother, he stabbed me in the back. My stepmother, she hoped I'd never breathe again. All the people I loved, I had to see them suffer. That cursed life, I swear that I'll never live again. Given a chance to start it all anew afresh, gonna hunt down and complete every side quest. When the ending this time arrives, I swear I will be prepared. Demon, dragon, god, or even the creator, I won't fear. Y'all asked for the cringe, so keep the hating to a minimum in the comments. I seen how KSI been done lately, and I promise my heart ain't ready for that. Seriously though, if you were paying attention to the lyrics, you should have heard mention of the fearsome evil that brought the world to ruin, the one they call the Diddler. There's no better way to get you to understand the experience of reading a Regressor story than seeing it firsthand, so accompany me on this journey. The Diddler loves black holes. The denser, the better. He finds some sick pleasure out of shoving whatever he can deep inside to watch it be sucked away forever. You've stuffed your last hole, Diddler. I'm putting an end to this before your antics destroy the world.
Well, friends Bamingles, you'll have to catch me first. Have a taste of my free cough machine.
Ha! Your aim is as bad as your taste in fashion.
Thank you. What? Why, I hit my mark after all.
What do you... No!
How do you like my little gift?
Is this... baby oil?
Yes, my dear Ingalls.
But it's been 15 years since all the baby oil disappeared from the world.
Think, Franz, think. Now why do you think that is?
You sick little gremlin.
Sick or not, I know you won't make it up here like that, and now no one can stop me.
If you flip that switch, everyone dies, you included.
That's exactly what I'm hoping for. I want to go out the way I lived, entering the tight embrace of one last black hole. The baby oil is just to ease my penetration through the event horizon. If I have the entire world's supply of that glorious substance, I might live long enough to see the other side. Now, Black Holeinator, activate. 10 seconds until we all become one. Any last words?
Pause! The counter! It's not too late!
I'll be missing you, Franz.
As the Black Holeinator activated, Franz Baningle's life flashed before his eyes. As the planet was sucked into the Diddler's abyss, Franz regretted every opportunity he let slip away that led to this moment. If only he'd done a few things differently, the Diddler may have never gotten his way. Resigning himself to his fate, he closes his eyes.
Franz, get out of bed. You can't start off your senior year late for school.
I missed Mom's voice. Maybe the end isn't so bad.
Don't make me come in there.
My old bedroom? This all feels so real. What's going on?
Answer me if you're awake.
She looks just like she did before getting diddled 9 years ago.
Franz, if you're up, why didn't you say anything?
Mom, is that really you?
What's the matter, honey?
Nothing, Mom. I just love you. Realizing he was returned to the past, long before the Diddler became the face of Freak, Franz determined himself to never let the world follow the trajectory that led to its ruin under the Diddler and his freakies. Over the next 10 years, he took advantage of every piece of future information he had to position himself perfectly to get revenge on his sworn enemy and prevent him from ever succeeding at anything. The Diddler was defeated, the baby oil was saved, and everyone lived happily ever after. The end. If you're still watching, something's wrong with you, but I made a promise to bring back the cringe, so you get a double serving today. Do I regret making that promise? Considering the number of subscribers I'm about to lose, yes. Can I do anything about it? Well, I'm not a regressor, and even if I was, I'd have way better things to do. First on the list, I'd never give that love letter to that girl I had a crush on in the 7th grade. Massive contender for most embarrassing day of my life. Here's some backstory. We were classmates. She was one of the prettiest girls in our grade, super friendly. I think she lived within a mile of where I did, but I can't remember too well anymore. And most importantly, this is how they get you, guys. She was nice to me. So, we had some really big exams coming up, and as a kid who grew up watching anime, I had an idea I thought would be fun. Study group. I'll be honest, it was 7th grade. I'd obviously never studied a day in my life, but I knew some people who needed all the help they could get. Asked my mom if I could host, then drafted up 10 invites for all my closest friends. I don't know why I'm telling you this. I think my inner podcaster is begging to be let out, so just skip to the next chapter if you don't want to hear all this. Back off topic. While that girl was friendly and would talk to me at school, I had enough sense to know that didn't make us besties, so while I thought about it, I decided not to be weird and didn't invite her. It was a day for me and the boys. But then she heard about it. It's Friday, day before the study group, class is over, I'm heading home, about to catch my school bus. She comes up to me saying it sounded fun and she wishes she was invited. On the outside, I keep it cool, say I can make room for one more. On the inside, I'm going crazy. I'll date myself a bit and say this was back before Google Maps, so I wrote my address down and scribbled a map out for her on a piece of paper, then ran to catch the bus that was leaving me behind. You guys will not believe how out of my mind I was or how fast I wanted that day to end so she'd show up at my front door. Then Saturday hit. Biggest plot twist in anime history. Not a single person shows up, not even one of my friends. No one except her. It was just 2 of us, so we spent the day in my bedroom. We barely studied an hour before my mom, being the goat, brought in snacks, told us we'd worked hard, and said we could have the rest of the day off. I remember what we ate, what we drank, how we laughed, the bowling video game we played on my old box TV, happiest day of my short life. She eventually left, said she had fun, and I should have let it end there. This was before I learned my just because she's nice to you that doesn't mean she's into you lesson, and I proceeded to write her a heartfelt poem expressing how much I liked her and would like to be with her. Fast forward to the most embarrassing day of my life. I fold it up all nice and give it to her in class, tell her how much I appreciated her for showing up, and said she should only open it up when she gets home. She puts it away in her bag. I have some sports club or something, so I leave. End of the day. I'm back for my stuff so I can head home. Why are there like 50 kids crowded at the door to my class? I wondered before they noticed me and ran in my direction, pointing, laughing, and pushing me around as one of them waved my poem from the trash in the air. Tried to fight to get it back, but I was outnumbered and ashamed, so I grabbed my stuff and ran. She never spoke to me again, and after I switched schools that year, I never saw her again. Until she was randomly on the same flight to Russia as my sister 5 years ago, but I hid away and didn't say hi, so that doesn't count. And this video has been crazy off topic, even by my standards, so story time is over. I said a bit before about how Regressor story quality declines as the protagonist's fixation on gaining strength grows. And that's because those stories throw away their ultimate tool. They ignore the only correct way to write a Regressor story, resolving the protagonist's regrets from their previous life. Whether the protagonist is a maidenless waste of air like myself or Michael Jordan, Apocalypse Edition, they're supposed to be a human being with an entire life's experiences, and to be human is to make mistakes. Which failures do they most strongly wish they could make right? While the stakes obviously have to be a bit higher than wiping away the humiliation of chasing after a baddie out of your league, the human race going extinct isn't something an individual can reasonably be or feel responsible for. I had to battle with the guilt of leading Hitler down the wrong path for many years, but part of my growth as a person was realizing that rejecting his application to the Vienna Academy of Fine Arts was the right thing to do because the other applicants were far more deserving, and I had no way of knowing that would snowball into the rise of Nazi Germany. I'm not saying regressors shouldn't care about all of the people destined to die or that they should let things be as they will. I just think stories should dedicate time to the human aspect of being given a second chance at life. Did I work as hard as I could have? Did I tell the people dear to me how much I loved them? Did I take the beautiful scenery of my hometown for granted? Whether you'd buy up a ton of Bitcoin, bet on the Red Sox, or spend more time with your parents, every decision you might wish you could have made differently is to one end: to be happy with your life and with yourself. To find stories like that is why I sift through so many not-so-pleasant titles, and the first one of those gems I'd like to share with you is A Man's Man. This webtoon follows Yoo Hyun, the youngest CEO of one of Korea's top conglomerates, Hansung Electronics. His career has been nothing short of incredible, and the story begins with his reward for 2 decades of phenomenal work. Promotion to the highest position anyone in his country could have aspired to. Now, this is where he'd usually get killed by a jealous competitor, betrayed and stabbed in the back by the superiors he'd been loyal to, or become the victim of some other miscellaneous act of violence, but none of that happens. Plenty of people bear resentment towards him, and I'm recommending this in a regression video, so it should be obvious that some tragic event would happen to end his life, but the only loss of life we see is voluntary, and the soul lost isn't his, but that of a former co-worker who'd joined the company with him. To rise to his position, Yoo Hyun ignored the injustices suffered by those around him and made decisions that negatively impacted many lives and destroyed his closest relationships. His tragedy is that on the day of his greatest achievement, there wasn't a single person left in his life to congratulate him. After chasing the ghost of his former colleague into a bar that didn't exist and drinking beverages he probably should have asked the composition of, he wakes up 20 years in the past, just after he passed the written test to be accepted into Hansung Electronics, and his chance at a more fulfilling life begins. I loved reading the story because of its unique perspective. The protagonist was as successful as he possibly could have been in his first life. Yoo Hyun neither returned to the past willingly nor bearing grudges he needed to resolve. A Man's Man follows a guy who learned what really mattered after experiencing what it was like to have everything. From mending his relationship with his father, who let their family decline while he supported all of his employees, to instilling confidence in and providing opportunities for the competent and hardworking people he previously watched fall to ruin. This story about a man's man is a heartwarming read I hope many of you will consider giving a read over on WEBTOON, the sponsor of today's video, where all the stories I'm recommending today are free to read. If you were paying attention earlier in the video, I said that what makes this genre toxic isn't what you read on the screen, but where it comes from. Most of you have probably heard a little about how cutthroat Shonen Jump is, and how many mangaka across different magazines and publishers destroy their health trying to maintain competitive quality on insane deadlines. The Korean manhwa industry is even worse. Unlike magazines like Jump that can only carry a fixed number of serializing titles at a time, there's no limit to how many digital webcomics a studio can produce simultaneously. Because of this, the focus of manhwa studios is always turning closer and closer to quantity over quality. While this has had positive effects like tons of web novels and light novels being adapted and spread to audiences they'd never have otherwise reached, the overwhelming workload has severely impacted the lives of the artists being thrown all of those stories to adapt. With 4 times the national depression rates and escalated attempts at what Yoo Hyun's co-worker did, all while working for salaries that definitely don't counteract the adverse physical and mental health effects the job entails, what was once a dream job for the people bringing us the stories that changed our lives and touched our hearts is now becoming an unbearable cycle of mass-producing budget clones of whatever has the most search traffic. Opportunities for creators to work healthily towards producing stories that truly resonate with their audience have become few and far between, and that's where today's sponsor comes in. I make no money off of YouTube. One day of flipping burgers at McDonald's would be more profitable than an entire month of me dedicating several hours a day to making the best videos I possibly can, but I do it anyway. That's because it means something to me personally, and the potential to touch others isn't something I'd throw away for a short-term profit. All of the artists and writers who keep going despite their difficult situations feel the exact same way, and that's why I sympathize with them, why you should sympathize with them, and why WEBTOON is sponsoring this video, to help the dreams of people like that come true. Not only does WEBTOON provide a platform to anyone with the ability to draw and bandwidth to upload, it endeavors to make every story in its library as accessible as possible to everyone. While WEBTOON might not always know the behind-the-scenes conditions of every single person involved in the creation of every single story it publishes, by providing them with international audiences and the biggest possible opportunity to succeed, it grants all the creators in difficult situations the chance to gain the leverage to dictate their own terms. That's where you come in. If you really draw enjoyment from a story, think about how you might positively impact the lives of the people working on it by supporting it on the official platform. As strict as Shonen Jump might be when it comes to performance, Hunter x Hunter can take years off at a time because of how much it has been shown to mean to people around the world, and you can make that difference for the artist behind your favorite manhwa, just by reading it for free on the platform where they get rewarded for that. The more financially stable and valued at their independent studios they are, the more freedom they have to look after their health and put forward the best work possible. I'd certainly love to live in a world where less people had First Life Yoo Hyun as a boss and more stories existed like The Night Only Lives Today. If your personal idea of a Regressor story can't be separated from action, this new release that's barely been available in English for 2 months just might be the one for you. Meet Encrid. He's as talentless and worthless as I am, and just like me, he has a dream that he's never going to accomplish: becoming a knight. He trains hard and makes all his best efforts, but his attempts at getting stronger are usually about as successful as I was at warning the Japanese about the nukes. Not very. One day, his company is involved in a battle and he finally succumbs to the perils of war and meets his end.
Only to wake up in the past!
But if I'm recommending it, there has to be a catch. He only gets returned to the start of the day he died. That isn't enough time to actually train, so he's still weak, and as a soldier, if he tries to desert, he'll get killed anyway, so what does he do? He takes the challenge head on and decides to use the knowledge he gained from fighting in the battle the first time around to try and make it all the way through to the end. How does it end now? He dies again. I told you he was untalented. The webcomic's called The Night Only Lives Today because that's what ends up happening. For so long as Encrid has the desire to try again, every time he dies, he is returned to the start of the same day. At first, this seems like a gift, but what about after you've lived through the same death without a chance to eat, sleep, or mentally recover for 5 days, 10 days, 50, 100, 300 days? What happens when you spend so long trying to break past one wall that you forget why you even wanted to get to the other side? Why you confronted the wall in the first place? If you want to watch a man whose efforts have never been rewarded be given as many chances to work towards his goal as his wavering resolve will allow, this is the one for you. If you don't want anything overly deep and would just like something fun to turn your brain off to and enjoy, consider reading Reincarnator. Clichés are cliché for a reason. People like them. Stat windows? Check. Humans are pulled from Earth and forced to participate in a death game? Check. The protagonist was the strongest player in his previous life and became the last survivor of a ruined world? Check. Put simply, Hansu is that guy, with his unique trait that greatly limited the number of skills he could learn. In exchange for having them evolve forever, he became the greatest force fighting on humanity's side. Unfortunately, the enemy had forces too, which outnumbered his cohort, and they actually all stuck together. Understanding the end was nigh, Team Earth shared with him all the knowledge they had collected together about the opportunities that had molded them into the strongest fighters, told him to play nice with the people he'd meet, and used their one return to the past ticket to send him back far enough to prevent the end of days. The character writing is consistent, and the supporting cast has been supporting, so it's definitely good enough to kill some time. As honorable mentions, first, I really hope you'll give Return of the Blossoming Blade a try. It didn't make the main list because it isn't actually Regression. Protagonist Chung Myung is just born again sometime after his death fighting the heavenly demon, but it's the fantasy martial arts version of A Man's Man, where someone who was about as successful as he could have been in his first life uses his second to be more of a human being and uplift those around him. Straight peak. The second spot goes to I'm the Queen in This Life, which has some of the most abominable roasting I've ever seen and follows a character who has to battle with herself over whether she deserves to enjoy her second life after the crimes of her first, and has to learn to love herself after abuse and manipulation. This really was a Regressor story, but I decided, in my infinite stupidity, that it'd be a better use of your time and mine to sing songs, make funny voices, and tell you about the first of my 2 great rejections in the 7th grade. I owe you an antagonists video, but I'd also love to round up the most toxic manga genre series with an isekai installment. Comment antagonists if you want that video first, or isekai if you think that should be the next stop. First to 150 comments wins, or I decide for myself. I'm definitely going to get in trouble with WEBTOON for crossing like 17 lines in this video. My job was just to spend a few minutes telling you which WEBTOONs I thought were good, but it had been too long since I gave y'alls a banger, so I'll take the punishment on this one. Thanks again to them for sponsoring this video. If you've seen any of my previous sponsored videos, you know the glaze isn't part of the package, but I appreciate them and it came from the heart, so really go and check out the stories I recommended in the links down below. Thanks to the patrons Bolivar Sanchez, Kurumi Kata, Fireboy Hates Water Girl, Lucas HF, The Thorb, Draith, Let's Go Infinite AJ, Dest, and Alia M for helping make all my videos possible. Those 9 actually donate more money than everything I get from YouTube, so I couldn't do it without them. And thanks to you for watching until the end. Like, subscribe, and share the video so I'm not poor anymore. Until next time, this has been Ken-chan. Glad I went back in time to end my Minecraft career before it was too late.